Before that was a 99-mile-an-hour sinker. And then that 102 fastball. My goodness. You guys find an extra gear when they're facing Ellie De La Cruz. It's a compliment. You don't appreciate that. But you certainly have to respect it.
What's going on? Nick Kirby here. Trace, I think, will be joining us soon. Bottom 9, Reds down 6-1 to the Pirates. Sierra, high drive. Going to be caught by Swinsky. That's out. Number 2. Hope your Wednesday's going well. Tough day. Just not a lot of fun. Bear with me, trying to kind of get everything up and running here. All right, 1-1 to Stevenson's where I'm at. I actually having to watch this on MLB TV. DirecTV went out in the middle of the game. Kind of felt appropriate today. All right, that's the ball game. I'll be back with the box score recap. Trey's supposed to join us here at some point. Hang with us.
High drive, left center field, racing back to the wall, Bourgeois. The Reds are National League Central Division champions. In the air, left center field. Did he? He did! He did! Reds win! Line to the right field. Genius, the first run ever. With 4 home runs in a game. Can you believe it? In the air, down the right field line. Doesn't have a chance. The Reds have won on a 3-run home run on opening day by Ramon Hernandez. A strike away and out away is Homer Bailey. Ground ball to third. Frazier gloves. Throw to first, and Homer Bailey, for the second time in his major league career, has tossed a no-hitter. Oh, gosh. Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? Holy moly, the second player in major league history to hit 7 home runs in the first 10 games. In the air, and the Reds win. What a dream beginning to the career of Trey Bruce.
What's up, Trace? Oh, he's on a call. Oh, hey. What's going on, folks? We are live, Chatterbox Reds live. We're on Instagram today. I mean, I feel like today's the perfect day to kind of go on Instagram just to showcase Chatterbox Reds and the Cincinnati Reds. I mean, I don't know when else you could possibly want a better day to showcase what all we do here. But I'm Nick Kirby. Trace Fowler will be along here in a second. I'm going to go ahead and run through the box score recap here while Trace gets situated. Got to give me just 1 second because I have to input my thing in here real quick. Bear with me. Hope your Wednesday is going better than the Cincinnati Reds ball club. All right, give me 1 second. Talking and clicking, I'm not good. I've never mastered that to save my life. So sorry about that. But we do this after all 162, even after a day like today. So let's go ahead and run through what happened today for the Cincinnati Reds. Reds trying to avoid a 9th series loss after they won the first game of the series. And the Reds would have to do so without Jeimer Candelario. He was out of the lineup with tendonitis. Without Jake Fraley, he was out of the lineup with a right lower leg contusion. And without Will Benson, just out of the lineup because he hasn't been very good. Graham Ashcraft back on the mound for the Reds after 2 stolid starts at AAA. It was 0-0 going into the second. Jack Sawinski had a 2-out RBI single to put the Pirates up 1-0. But then in the bottom of the third, Stuart Fairchild had a leadoff single. And then India crushed a double, 109 off the bat over the head of Jack Sawinski to tie the game at 1. It was the 11th consecutive plate appearance that Jonathan India reached base on, the longest streak from a Reds player since Dimitri Young in 2001. But then in the top of the fourth, Rowdy Tellez hit a solo home run off the top of the wall in left field. That made it 2-1 Pirates. Top of the fifth, Ashcraft gave up a 2-run home run to Andrew McCutchen to make it 4-1. And then in the top of the sixth, Ashcraft put 2 more runners on base. His day would be done. Justin Wilson came in and promptly allowed both runners to score on a 2 RBI double from the Pirates' backup catcher, Jason DeLay. That made it 7-1 Pirates. Ashcraft's final line, 5 1/3 innings pitched, 9 hits, 6 runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. He allowed 2 home runs. Ashcraft, 8 hard hit balls allowed on the day. He only got 5 swing and misses. Good work today, albeit in a mop-up role. Lucas Sims and Alexis Diaz each threw perfect innings with a strikeout each. But the Reds offense didn't do a whole lot. Just 4 hits. Reds fall 6-1. Reds now 37-43, 6 games below 500. And we do have sort of a DSC deep drive of the day. There's no minor league action. Everything got postponed. There's literally nothing to go off of. You know what? Jonathan India, he's playing well. He had a 109-mile-per-hour double, 381 feet. So Jonathan India, if there's anyone on the Reds on this day that deserves a DSC deep drive of the day, it's you. And our DSC deep drive of the day, sponsored as always by Deep South Commodities. DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production. They specialize in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. Thanks as always to our friends at DSC. And as I get rid of this graphic, I pray that Trace can save me. Trace Fowler, Chatterbox Sports, CEO, president, founder.
Yeah.
How are we doing?
I'm doing great. I just realized that it says Chatterbox Sports on my little ticker there. I probably could have changed that, but I was rushing in to try to get into the old video of the backstage.
I got you.
And I think I had that on the last time I was on StreamYard, which was with the Ripken show. And I basically told them that time I think that it was a good time to catch the Reds, and I wasn't wrong. All right, before we get into this, Ned Flanders chimes in. He says, I know there's no crying in baseball, but I watched the whole game. I feel shame. Yeah, I don't know, Nick. We do these after every game, and I think that more times than not, there is meaningful things to talk about. I really do. And today is one of those days where if anyone tells you otherwise, then they're not really, I don't know if they're a ball knower. I don't know if there's someone that's being realistic. But the truth is like right now, based off the situation and the circumstances, and I'm not saying these situations and circumstances are going to be there for an extended period of time, but today's a specific example. The fact when Fraley got scratched, this team's just not good enough. I mean, I don't really mean to be too pessimistic or maybe too straightforward, Nick, but there's just not enough Major League Baseball players that are playing for this team right now to expect good, consistent play. Will they rattle off 8-9 runs one game? Maybe, Nick. Maybe they will, and they did on Friday. Or not Friday, but they did on, what is today? Wednesday. They did on Monday. But that's just not who they're going to be. And the scary part, if you want to say it's scary, is that they're going to go into play a St. Louis team who's playing relatively well on the road in a pretty big series. And if they don't find a way to at least I know people are going to think I'm crazy, but at least take one. Split the series would be great based off of what I've been seeing lately. It can spiral out of control. So I think it's genuinely as simple as that, Nick. I'm sure there's things that we can talk about. Ashcraft certainly one of them, but otherwise, as far as the game goes today, what is there to? There's nothing. There's literally nothing to talk about, and I don't mean that negatively. We could talk about holistic things. We could talk about big picture things, certainly. But when you look at this lineup card today, you can't actually take it that serious.
Yeah, I mean, this is not the lineup that we were hoping. And look, I get it. I'm not going to sit here and try to make excuses or whatnot. I certainly understand the sentiment that the Reds haven't earned the right to, make excuses.
Yeah,
like
or get the
last,
benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, the last, like if the Reds were the St. Louis Cardinals and they had a year like this,
Yeah.
like the St. Louis Cardinals last year, like if I was doing a Cardinal show last year, I would have been I would have been the king of excuses, and I would have felt confident, and I would have said you're an idiot if you're throwing your hands up, complaining and crying.
And
but
they were.
But it I get it. It rings completely hollow right now. Does the front office, do those guys deserve like all the vitriol? No, but they also signed up for a job, and you got to find a way to dig out of this. And hopefully at some point in our lives when we do these shows, Trace, if the Reds do have a season like this and we do this long enough and we're there can be the benefit of the doubt at some point. But right now there's just not, because the Reds franchise has not earned it.
You nailed it. I mean, you nailed it. It's the exact reason as to why people can't stand, you and basically the way in which you go about your fandom. And I'm not saying that I don't understand where they come from. I do think there are times where it's like, you're getting upset at people that are really just trying to find the silver lining more times than not. Now, I will openly admit as well that the silver lining ultimately becomes kind of tiresome once you've lived through it long enough. And some people have been like us, have been living this basically our whole lives. So, the idea of, hey, it just stinks, bad luck this year, it's a shame, let's just chalk it up and let's start focusing on what we would actually have for 2025. It becomes just really depressing, quite frankly. Shout out to 988, text or call if you need it. Mantherapy.org. It's just, but that's the truth. That is the 100% truth, Nick. You nailed it right on the head. No one's going to feel sorry for this franchise, and I'm not saying they should, but the reality is, like it or not, the truth hurts. This team's not good enough right now, based off the injuries. And if we want to be critical of the front office, and we want to be critical of the organization as a whole, there's 100% a gap rate that's maybe a little too big. And it's largely because of all of the young prospects that we were excited about came up last year and they overachieved. Or maybe they achieved and then they got hurt. I don't know, however you want to look at it. But we got excited. We bought in. We bought the hype. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing as a fan. But the reality is now there's a gap between kind of this core that we are excited about and what I would argue is the next kind of young wave of core that we probably will be excited about next. And I'm not saying that's a great way to be a fan or to live fandom, because you're always hoping for the future. And at some point, you'd like to kind of be here and now before we're all dead. But I can't get mad. I just can't get mad at a baseball game today when I'm watching these guys. And it's just kind of like, the last thing I'll say about it, Nick, is like, have you ever gone and you've been, I don't want to say you're good at something, but you are knowledgeable about something, and maybe you take your girlfriend, I'm talking to the chat, not us, obviously. You take your girlfriend golfing, or you take your wife golfing, or you take them bowling, or maybe you get invited to a bowling league that, all these big time bowlers, and you show up. I watch this team and it kind of feels like how I feel about those people when they first do something. It's like, it's just like, I'm not saying you're horrible, but you're pretty bad, and I can't even really get mad at you because, quite frankly, I can't expect you to do well. It's going to take a lot more time before I can have expectations. these young guys. I mean, what do you want me to say about Levi Jordan, who can't catch a fly ball in left field that I thought should have been caught, and then next thing you know, you give up a 2-run homer. I'm not going to get mad at Levi Jordan, Nick. I just can't. I can't do it.
This is not the podcast that's gonna
It's
just
like,
sit and dump on poor Levi Jordan.
Exactly, 92% chance catch rate by the analytics, and it really wasn't even close to being caught. So, and again, I'm not going to go down the Levi Jordan this, that, and the next because he's doing his best. He got called up. You want me to get mad at if all things like Levon Soto. That's his name, right?
You nailed it. Maybe Levon. Might be
Levon. Regardless. I'm not even. I'm going to make an excuse for that kid. Like, he was playing really well in AAA. They bring him up here, Nick. He doesn't play for like a week. It's like, I don't understand that, if we're being honest. Like, what's the point of bringing a guy up if you don't really have any plans to give him some meaningful at-bats every so often? Now, I get it. Maybe you thought you were, and Jonathan India got hotter than a firecracker, and you're like, well, we can't take Jonathan India out. I don't. I'm just not going to get mad, Nick. And if people want me to get mad today, I can't do it because this team isn't. They're not even good enough for me to get mad about.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't really know what else to say. Shout out to Jonathan India. He's playing well. He is. I did not see this coming. I mean, he's playing really well. That's about it on the offensive side. I don't know what to say about Graham Ashcraft. I mean, I don't know. It wasn't great. I continue to feel more lean towards, I think he probably is a bullpen guy when it's all said and done. Yeah. But you have to start him right now, so it doesn't really matter. But I guess that's my only thought is I think he probably ends up being a bullpen guy, but he probably deserves a few more starts to kind of cement that one way or the other.
I don't know, man. It's just if we were playing on a team that was in the middle of a pennant race right now, it would feel like we would all be screaming and yelling that we want Ashcraft in there at least at the very minimum as like a Nick Martinez-ish type player. By player, I mean pitcher. So, but again, how do we go? Like, I know this sounds crazy to sit here live on air and try to think this through and map this all out, but it's like, how do we go about doing this as a fan? Like, how do I kind of do the balancing act of, hey, Reds need to do this, this, and this, and this, and it's like, I don't know, man. Like, again, to use a golf analogy, like, it feels like I'm playing with a guy that's like 13 over par through 5 holes, and he's like slamming his driver after he hits a bad shot on the 7th hole. It's like, dude, just try to enjoy the weather, man. Just like, no matter what you do from here on out, it really doesn't matter. And I don't mean to be like, season's over, everybody. But if we're running this lineup out, there's no reason to say fire David Bell. All right, there's no reason to sit here and yell and scream that if we would have moved this guy to that spot and this guy to that spot, it would have made a big difference. We need a little bit of an overhaul. Now, what does that overhaul look like, Nick? It means you get Noelve Marte back. It means that Jake Fraley's somewhat healthy and he becomes semi-competent at the plate with a little bit of pop behind his bat. And it also means that we have consistent starters that throw the ball relatively well, which they have done all year. But the last 2 games, Nick, it's not been a good start from the starters. And that's what I pointed to the other day, not to be the Mr. Pessimistic guy, Nick, but this is exactly what I was talking about. If this starting pitching just comes back to somewhat relevancy in regards to just being average, this team is in a bad shape. Now, I'm not saying it's going to because they have some really good starters, but let's not all sit around and scratch our heads and act like, why in the world is this happening? Like, I think we can all be semi-honest with ourselves. It's not a big league club right now.
Definitely not a big league lineup.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I know, I mean, you probably missed maybe a first few innings. I thought Ashcraft did okay, but I'm not going to sit here and brag about it. I'm also not going to be like, oh, man, it was just really bad luck. A couple bloops here, a couple blasts there. It's like, yeah, I mean, he gave up a couple hard hit balls that were outs too. So, Ashcraft is what he is. He's a 5th starter, And if he's not a fifth starter and you have somebody better, that's fantastic. And then maybe he's a long reliever in the bullpen. Simple as that. But the offense scored 1 run today. So if, like, I don't know, man. It's, it feels like we got about 9 holes in the boat, brother. We're arguing over why there's a leak in one of the holes we patched.
Yeah,
It's
no,
like,
you're right. You're right.
I don't know, man. What do we want to argue about today?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm excited to have Nova LV Marte back tomorrow. I don't know, how big of an impact he's going to make. I know he's a player that I'm excited about for the future. Excited about Ellie Taylor Cruz for the future. A little bit excited about Spencer Steer. I mean, you watch those guys, you see how they develop, and you hope that you can get some other guys, back healthy, and then you see where the chips fall, because this team does still have a really good pitching staff that can win a lot of games on their own. And I don't know. I'm not going to blame anyone who's out. Like, if you want, again, it's just kind of we're at the point of the season where if you're upset, probably not smart to say this is a guy who does a stupid show every night, but just don't watch. I mean, turn it off. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, it's not happening this year.
Well, I think that the only saving grace here for people to still stay tuned in and locked in and have a little bit of a puncher's chance, and I mean this wholeheartedly. I'll be the first guy that tells you that there's zero chance. There's still hope. The only reason that there's hope, though, is because the National League as a whole is trash. I mean, that's the facts. If we were found ourselves in a spot where we were back in the AL, or they put the Reds in the AL, then yeah, phone it in. We'll see everybody in Goodyear next year, and we'll see if it all works out. But that's not the case, thankfully. And the fact that the Major League Baseball has changed the rules for the playoffs, we've talked about that on the show before. It gives them a puncher's chance. It doesn't give them a good chance, but it gives them a puncher's chance. It definitely feels like if this was a season microcosm into one baseball game right now, it feels like we're in the 6th or 7th inning and we're down by 4 runs. Not ideal. Certainly odds would say we're not going to win, but crazier things have happened. So, that's why you tune in, I guess, to be honest. Or you can just kind of use it as group therapy every night, and we can all just kind of chow out together and root for guys like Soto and, Jordan and Fairchild. And, those are guys that are in the lineup today. And, when Stuart Fairchild is one of your more consistent, better players that you expect in your lineup, it's you're not in a good spot. That's no disrespect to Stu. We all know he's capable. By the way, last thing I'll say about this, Stuart Fairchild is a big league player, okay? He is. I think Stuart Fairchild could be put on a really good baseball team as the 25th, 26th man, and it would work out just fine. They would utilize him, and he would be a glue guy. I mean, it wasn't Janikowski. He won a World Series last year, Nick. So, and he did a good job for what they needed him to do.
To be completely honest, if this continues to go south for the next month, the Reds should be looking to move Stuart Fairchild at the trade deadline, because there's going to be a team that will give you something for him. Right. A good defensive, a team that can't hit left-handed pitching, that could use a 4th outfielder. Stuart Fairchild is the kind of guy that you should be looking to move, and there's no point in doing that now, because God knows we might have a whole month of it coming up. But yeah, I mean, Stuart Fairchild is your 5th best hitter today.
Right.
Like that's where we're at.
And the reality is that, Jonathan India is hotter than a firecracker. And unfortunately, they've not capitalized on it. I mean, you can't play better than Jonathan India has been playing lately, and the Reds have nothing to show for it. The last thing that and this may be the shortest show in Chatterbox Reds history, I don't know, but the only last thing I can really say that I think somewhat relevant, Nick, really is just I don't know what it is, and maybe it's a mindset thing, maybe it's coincidence too. I'm not going to sit here and act like it's David Bell or whatever, but like, you can't lose this many series in a row, or not in a row, but you can't lose this many series when you win the first game. Like, it almost statistically seems impossible, yet they've done it. I think it's 9 series. They've started 7 of them where they've won the first game. And this is now, I think that the maybe the 8th series that they've lost in that capacity. I'd have to double check on that,
Ninth.
but
It's the ninth.
it's the ninth. It's the 9th that they've lost in that capacity. That's crazy talk, man. But that just goes to show you that momentum is basically just as good as your next day starter. And realistically speaking, Nick, you know, they don't do well on getaway days. Like, I don't know if it's just because they decide they will sit guys or they want to make sure people get well rested. I know that's how the Sunday in Oakland thing started. I'm not going to make a bit out of that right now, but I do think it's like it can't go that much longer without me starting to think that it's an organizational. I don't know if it's just the schedule that they create or if it's the demeanor they put off on getaway day, but they can't lose this many getaway days. Can't.
Stuff.
So that's all I got.
All right. I want to talk about game time and
Yeah, love to.
we talk about game time. Let's before we do that, let's we had a super chat in here. Let's get to that. And then I starred one, but if anyone has any questions that's other than fire David Bell or something like that, we could take a couple questions because I don't really know what else to talk about. But here we go. We have a super chat here from Molly. I used to say there's no crying in baseball, but I was wrong. Cry your hearts out, Reds fans, 988. Thanks, Molly, for your super chat.
That's right.
All right.
988. Game time, Nick. If you need to go get tickets, where do you go?
Well, unfortunately, the Reds are going to be out of town
They
for
will be.
the next week. So you're going to have to wait to hustle down to the ballpark like I know everyone is really trying to do right now. But when they are back in town and you're ready to get down to the ballpark, make sure you use the Game Time app because it's now an authorized ticket marketplace in Major League Baseball. That makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app, they actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views from your seat, and the lowest price guaranteed, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. They have all-in pricing. You can toggle this feature, and it shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Cincy for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code Cincy, CINCY, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
All right. And then, as always, you can see it at the bottom of your screen, 24/7 help, 988 text call. As far as chat questions, I haven't seen anything yet. Ryan obviously asks here, what do you do with Benson? Listen, I think that maybe the most disappointing part of all of this is that there's really no other options that are really that great. And I think the Reds know that. And I just think that they're going to ride with Will Benson until the absolute wheels fall off. But I would argue the wheels have already fallen off, Nick, just for his sake, for his development. You can't let him continue to go out there and get absolutely abused because mentally it will eventually just completely erode. At least that's how I feel. It kind of feels like a pitcher who goes out there and he's getting shelled all around the yard. You can't leave him out there for 45 pitches in one inning, Nick. You got to cut your losses and give him a shot and then say, hey, come back and we'll get him another time. That's where I think we are with Will Benson personally. Just give him a break. Maybe send him down there to Louisville for a week or two and then bring him back up, even regardless of kind of how he does in Louisville, just to give him maybe a mental break, if nothing else. But I don't know. It worked last year, but I'm not going to sit here and act like that's the magic touch either, Nick. I think a lot of people have said that. Like, just do what you did last year. Send him down, bring him back up. Like, that'll fix it. I don't think that probably isn't going to manifest itself more times than not. If it was simple as that, we'd be doing that with all of our guys. But you know what? To be fair to them, I don't know if it could get any worse, so why not, you know?
I think you have to see where Will Benson's at mentally. Does his actions off the field and in the dugout, not actions, more his demeanor.
Sure, yes.
Is it the same as it was last year when it was struggling, or is he in a different place? Do you feel like, you know what, hey, he's getting through the mental side of this. This is not mental. This is just he needs to grind it out. Then maybe keep him up because I don't see a better option. I mean, I don't know if I really want to watch, Levi Jordan or Levon Soto or whatever their names are. I don't even know what these guys' names are anymore. And I watch this team every day. I think you have to gauge where he's at mentally. And it really, at this point, it's whatever's best for Will Benson.
Correct.
I don't really care. I don't care if it's keep him on the team. I don't care if it's send him down. Whatever's best for Will Benson, that's what I'm doing right now.
Correct. It has little to do with what his replacement will do. It has everything to do with what actually, will happen with Will Benson. Ricky, do we just take a chance on Rhys Hines?
Striking out in 39% of his plate appearances at AAA.
I don't know, man. I've not seen Rhys Hines play enough for me to give a really good take on this. Obviously, I know last year he kind of was one of the brighter spots, if I remember right. I don't want to say came out of nowhere, but played extremely well. I think it was at least in Chattanooga's where he played extremely well. So he was one of the names we were excited about coming into this year. Blake Dunn was another guy we were excited about coming in this year, and they've both been disappointing. And flip a coin, Ricky, in my opinion. I don't know. Tomato, tomato. I don't know if it matters. But you know what? I will also admit, Will Benson is not, like, I know people do this all the time, but genuinely speaking, I would be willing to bet on any given night at Great American Ballpark, there is an athlete that's in the stands that probably could have done just as a productive a job as Will Benson has done the last month. That's not trying to be funny. That's not trying to take anything away, but that's just trying to illustrate the truth of Will Benson right now. So if you think Rhys Hines can take that spot, as I've said before, it all comes down to Will Benson. And my gut tells me that he should take a break. But, like you said, maybe there's a reason they don't want to do that.
I would say no on Rhys Hines. I mean, last year Rhys Hines was only striking out in 33% of the time. It's still high, but it's nowhere near 39%. Last year's getting on base at a 330 clip. This year it's 292. I think Rhys Hines has a potential to actually be a big league player, but I feel like right now you're setting him up for failure. And so I would rather just, hey, we need you to get that strikeout rate down. We need you to start getting back on base like you were last year before we consider calling you up. If Rhys Hines wasn't a guy that I felt had any sort of potential to actually be a big leaguer that could stick, then I would say, sure, just call him up right now. Yeah, what do you got to lose? But I don't think you're setting him up for success, and I think he's going to get overmatched, and it's going to be, something that's going to maybe kick a guy that's even down more than he is right now.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I just don't think that there's, put it this way, there is not an answer. We all know there's not an answer. The answer is, unfortunately, already been answered, which is you got to have good players to even have a chance. And the good players that we knew we had coming into the season, all of them, every single one of them have had some semblance of an issue this year outside of Ellie. That's the facts. What are you laughing about?
Do you see the screen?
Yeah, I mean, what are we doing? You're giving her airwaves. You're giving her. I mean, that comment's
Fergie Fowler. There's still 156 people watching this after the Reds just got 4 hits against the Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, I've never felt better about this show than I feel right now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, our community. And I say our, I'm talking about everybody, even the chat. The chat has their own little conversations going 90% of the time. Sometimes I wonder if they even kind of listen to us, which is perfectly fine. I mean, if you want to come in here and just have fun with people, that's fine too. I don't care how you do it. I think it's group therapy, if anything, at this point. And I think that's more than fine. It's more than fair. Sometimes you got to vent. And that's what this show's been. I don't think there's a lot of substance in this show. And maybe going forward, there will be more substance. And I also know damn well that if the Reds rattle off 3 or 4 in St. Louis, or they sweep St. Louis, World Series is back on. Like, that's how this damn thing goes. And you know what? I'm here for it. If that's how we want to run the show, then that's all the way that's the way it's gonna go. But on a day like today, I got nothing. I know what I'm saying? Like, I know we want to try to do a good job for the chat. And I know there are days in which, you're supposed to maybe come up with other oddball conversations. Hey, Nick, what's your Mount Rushmore of Reds players. Like, I'm not doing that. I don't have time for that. I don't care about that. We don't have airwaves to fill. I don't have to be on here till 4:30 like the radio, okay? That's why they come up with the dumb conversations they do all the time, because their boss tells them that they have to be on till 4:30. So they have to come up with these stupid, dumb, ridiculous takes, and that's all it is. I'm not doing that, okay? I have a life. You have a life. The chat has a life. If we don't have anything good to say or something insightful to say, which some would argue that never happens on this show, then you know what? Pack our bags. We got somewhere to be. And it's not going to be sitting here coming up with dumb takes all the time. Like, I don't know, one I seen the other day. Why don't we just put Connor Phillips in the big leagues? The guy hasn't gotten anybody out in like basically all season. Maybe we should put him in the big leagues. I couldn't imagine listening to the big one right now and listening to the call-ins. I bet that's riveting content. James Dornsife comes in, says maybe they need to send Benson to the eye doctor for a checkup. I mean, he isn't even coming close to hitting the ball. Yeah, I mean, James, you're not right. You're not wrong. Let me say this. This is my last thing on Will Benson. I like the guy. I think he's a good person. I think he cares a lot. I think sometimes that can get in the way of your overall perception because you let things snowball. And unfortunately for him, I think it's snowballed to where it's just he's all out of sorts. So send him to AAA. Let him get a breather. Period.
I'm going to say this, though. On Wednesday, June 26th at 4:03 p.m., mark me down. Will Benson's a big leaguer. He's going to have some success again at some point. It is coming.
Right.
I don't know when it's coming. I don't know if it'll be this year. I still believe in Will Benson. Sue me.
I'm not going to sue you for saying that, but I will say that it's...
I just don't think what he did last year, I don't think you could do what he did last year for as long as he did. It wasn't a month. It wasn't 2 months. I mean, this was a good 4 months of a baseball season.
It was.
Where he dominated right-handed pitching. Dominated right-handed pitching.
It was. The only thing that I would say that I would push back on is that I think that there's a lot of guys in this world that have the talent, the skill set to be professional athletes at a very, very high level. The only ones that can concede on secede on a consistent basis are the ones that have a very, very mental tough approach, and they don't allow one thing to affect the next thing. And I don't know if that's the case for Will Benson. That's my fear for him, is that I don't know if he's ever going to find himself in a spot where his mind, his mental approach, or whatever term you want to use, his mental fortitude is going to allow him to be the consistent player that we had seen towards the end of last season. And we shall find out. I'm not rooting against him, but again, there's a lot of guys that can come to the big leagues, in my opinion, and they can shine for a short period of time. The question is are you good enough to consistently stay here? I don't know.
I'll have this. I'm more confident in Will Benson than I am Jake Fraley at this point in time.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. I feel like we're arguing over
we are.
We're arguing over 2 4s at the bar trying to figure out which one's hotter. And it's like, I don't know, Nick. They're both pretty ugly. Just saying. Any other comments or questions?
No. Well, we'll go ahead and put up Reds MILB. Really tough day for there to be 2 games postponed that were day games. Man, could even have some minor league baseball to talk about. Louisville and someone else. Was it
the
Dayton?
DSL Reds? I love them.
The DSL Reds beat up on the DSL Royals Ventura 9-7, but there's no one that I know on the team, so I don't really have a whole lot to tell you about. Louisville and Dayton were postponed. Chattanooga 20-50 Lookouts taking on Rocket City at 7:15. Plenty of tickets still available, and then Daytona taking on Jupiter at 6:35. That's your Reds MILB. Do we do a little who, what, when, where, Trace?
I think we do. A little who, what, when, where, and maybe why.
Yeah, Reds taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Cardinals currently trailing 4-2 to the Braves. They are playing a doubleheader today, a split doubleheader. They play the second game at 7:45 tonight. Your series tomorrow is Andrew Abbott versus Miles Michaels. Both pitchers 6-6. That's kind of interesting. Abbott, of course, he's having a great year. Miles Michaels has been pitching a lot better of late. But your matchups for the entire series are as follows. Friday is an 8:15 game. Frankie Montas up against Andre Palante. And then Saturday, 2:15, Carson Spires against Sonny Gray. I think that's the first time the Reds have saw Sonny Gray since he was in a Reds uniform. And then Sunday, 2:15, Hunter Green up against Lance Lynn. Cardinals, they are a National League best 25-13 since May 12th. And they're 21-15 this season at home. The Cardinals currently hold the second wild card spot, only a half game ahead of the Padres. So, yeah, I mean, look, I'm not a big, this game's must win or must not, but I mean, you could do the math. You get swept by the Cardinals in this series,
it's over.
It's pretty much over. Yeah, I mean,
it's over.
But you sweep the Cardinals, you win 3 of 4,
right,
and you are right back in it.
It feels like 3 of 4. Losing 3 of 4 feels like we're on our deathbed. Doesn't feel like we're dead. Sweep feels like we're dead. Split feels like it's just kind of like nothing's changed. It's just it gives us maybe a little bit more time before some of the cavalry comes. I don't know who that is if you're asking me, so don't ask. But you take 3 of 4 or you sweep, then you kind of get your, you get perked back up a little bit. And you start to get fired up about David Bell and whether he matters or not. I think that's probably what will happen. Could be wrong. Might be right. AJ Worse, no comment.
Anything else, Trace?
No, I got nothing. The last thing I'm just going to say to everybody is I don't know what we're going to ultimately talk about if things go south, but I'll just say this. We very much appreciate the fact that you continue to support us because at the end of the day, getting on here and doing shows in the middle of the day, at night, every single night, when we ultimately feel the same way that you do about this baseball team at times, it's a pick-me-up. I'll be honest. If we got on here and there was 12 people, it would be very, very, very disheartening, but that's never been the case because of all of you. Yes, you come in here, even if you come in here, like I said, just to kind of morally support us, I very much appreciate it. So I don't want you to ever think that we don't take that for granted because we do not. And hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Quite frankly, you have a lot of it left. Don't let it get ruined by a AAA baseball team right now. And that's okay. And you know what? Hopefully it's not a AAA baseball team going in to this weekend and then following next week because we kind of need to win some baseball games, and maybe we'll get lucky. Chattanooga, though, you could be a diehard Chattanooga Lookout fan. They're 20-50. So.
Noelvi Marte tomorrow. I tell you what, if there's ever been a 3-hit day needed from a player for him, for his fan base, it's Noelvi Marte. God, I hope we pop off at 9:50, 10 o'clock whenever we come live and we're talking about Noelvi Marte coming back, having a big day. Man, God, we need it. We need it, Trace.
We need every bit of help we can get. And if not, then I guess we talk about the MLB draft and who we
trade deadline.
Trade deadline. Yeah, I mean, that's where we're going to go. But you know what? I'm not giving up hope yet. At least Nick said he's not out on Will Benson on June 26th. 2024, I am going to go on a limb and say that I'm not giving up on the season on June 26, 2024. I can't do that. I've made a mistake before in the past of thinking the season's over. Guess what? As bad as this is, the NL Central is not good. And you know what else isn't good? The National League as a whole. So, truth is, you still got a chance. You might, as I said before, maybe there is a bunch of 4 sitting at the bar. And you know what? Maybe the Reds are a 3 right now. But you know what? All it takes is to be a 5. If you're a 5 sitting at the bar with a bunch of 4s, you might as well be a 10. And that is going to be the goal for your Cincinnati Reds going to the end of the wire here in 2024.